in 1956, there were 12,000 drive-ins in America. 95% of those are dead. And yet there are native Indians, the Crankaway Indians of Texas, who believe there is a spirit that lives on in these decayed temples where Americans once worshipped. They call it Wiskavanaha, or the spirit of blood, breasts, and beasts, or the 3 Bs. What you are about to witness is a summoning of that spirit, a return to a part of the American heritage that has all but vanished. It's a heritage of drive-in movies, controversial movies, groundbreaking movies, the weird, the offbeat, the strange, and most of all, the sleazy. You are about to experience one of the sleaziest movies in the history of the world.
I don't know about you, whenever I see a sight like this along an American highway, I get kind of steamed. There's not even any place where you can watch the classic movies anymore. Movies like Please Don't Eat My Mother and Gas Pump Girls and Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. They made Blood-Sucking Freaks today. Who knows if anybody'd even get a chance to see it? Not to mention the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. At least Saw is still the king after all these years. But I'm determined to do more than that. This series will bring you 1,000 of the sleaziest drive-in movies ever released. And this project at our current rate of release will be completed in the year 2116. Because that's how dedicated we are to the preservation of the drive-in movie. Kind of makes you sick, don't it? Howdy, welcome again to my home, and more important, the headquarters of the most exciting film project in America. And tonight we're going to talk about Herschel Gordon Lewis, the master, the genius, the sleaziest filmmaker in the history of America. We honor you here, Herschel. Here, let me remove my... No, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. But we do have here in a few minutes a movie that was lost for almost 25 years before it was discovered in a musty film vault in downtown Chicago and lovingly restored by the staff here at the sleaziest movies in the history of the world. This is the movie that was the turning point for Herschel Gordon Lewis. In 1961, he was a Chicago advertising man who normally made educational and industrial films like Know Your Post Office. That was Herschel's film. And one day he decided to make real movies, and the first one was called The Prime Time, and it was so bad it would have been a better movie if you had cats play the lead roles. And then he made a movie called Living Venus with Harvey Korman, loosely based on the life of Hugh Hefner. Better movie, but nobody went to see that one. It played briefly as a double feature with Carnival Story, and so Herschel was running out of money. And then Herschel's partner, Dave Friedman, I'm going to get to the point here in just a minute. I got to tell this story. Dave Friedman called him up one day and he said, I know this film distributor in Dallas named Al Sack, and he says if we can make a one-reel cutie film in color, he'll pay us $11,000. Well, he was talking to the right man because Herschel could tell Gone with the Wind for less than $11,000. And the cutie film, what they were talking about, was just a movie that had a whole bunch of women taking off their blouses. And the only women who would take off their blouses in the year 1961 were professional strippers who worked in the burlesque houses. And most of them were old, flabby, and looked like pieces of chewed up dog food. And so Dave Friedman made the rounds of the burlesque joints in Chicago, and he ended up with 8 old flabby strippers that looked like pieces of chewed up dog food is what they were. And then so they'd have some kind of story in the movie, they hired this local Chicago comedian named Billy Falbo, who worked the burlesque shows between the stripper acts. And Billy was still doing the same act he did in vaudeville. Billy was waiting for vaudeville to come back. And so Herschel got his whole World War II Army surplus camera, and they made up 5 routines. Most of them were versions of old vaudeville routines. And what they ended up with is really a silent movie. There's practically no dialogue in this movie. It's almost like a cartoon where this girl with huge bazoomas, she walks in the room, and Billy Falbo, you know, he'll grab his hat and go woo, 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 fall on his butt. You know, that's supposed to be funny. And then the women strip, and the camera lingers on them. Now, this is the worst part about it. The camera lingers in close-ups on each lump of cellulite on each woman's body. Whoa, I can't hardly stand to think about it. And you know what these are? These are the actual shoes worn by Kay Monty in the Photographer's Apprentice sketch in this movie. Now, there is something about flabby naked women wearing shoes like this that make the Sleaziest movie almost too sleazy to bear. You know what I mean? Now, in order to understand why you're about to be subjected to this movie, you've got to know a couple of historical facts. One is that there weren't many movies around with any kind of nudity in them at this time. The only other person making these movies was Russ Meyer. He made the first one in 1959. It was called The Immoral Mr. Tease. And of course, he would later become famous for films like Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens and Mondo Topless. You know all his movies. But the totally amazing thing is that when they finally finished The Adventures of Lucky Pierre, it was held over for 9 weeks at the Capri Theater on Van Buren Street in downtown Chicago. It earned more money than any cutie film ever made. So word got out, suddenly every theater owner in the country wanted more movies from Herschel Gordon Lewis. Billy Falbo, the slapstick comic in this thing, he became convinced that he was going to become a big, big movie star. He hired an agent. And so Herschel stopped everything else he was doing, and he started making movies full time. He would go on to international fame, of course, when he made Blood Feast 2 years later, the story of Fuad Ramses, maniac Egyptian caterer, and the first movie to show blood and guts on the screen. But it was this movie we're going to watch right now that made him realize there's a whole lot of money out there. And one other interesting thing about it is that it's just barely 1 hour long, so it usually had to be paired with a short film when it was shown in the theater. So we've done that for you too. We've put it with Herschel's classic short film, A Hot Night at the Go-Go Lounge, which is 15 minutes of 2 naked ladies doing the twist and the frug and the pony while wearing fringed leotards, platinum blonde wigs, white jeans, blue panties, leopard skin underwear, a black G-string, and nothing at all for no apparent reason. Okay, I think you're going to enjoy this. The drive-in totals are real good on these, by the way. 74 breasts, actually 86 breasts if you count A Hot Night at the Go-Go Lounge, and 3 pairs of pink mules, just like these. You're not going to believe that people paid money to see these women. We are showing this strictly for historical purposes. I hope you realize, and I hope you'll forgive us after it's over. Well, there you have him. Billy Falbo, finest stand-up comic in Chicago, 1961. He's a vaudeville guy who was convinced that that movie was going to be his big break in show business. And of course, Billy was never seen again. The movie has a real special place in my heart, though, because it features a drive-in so prominently. When I see all those naked breasts going up and down on the seesaw, clambering through the monkey bars, kind of makes me feel, oh, I don't know, kind of makes me feel like I need to find some better use for my time is what it makes me feel like. But as I said, this was also the movie that launched Herschel Gordon Lewis's career into the big time. Even though you might have noticed, he and his partner Dave Friedman didn't use their real names on the credits. Herschel was listed as Lewis H. Gordon. But because of this movie, he was hired by these 2 shady characters from Cincinnati who wore elevator shoes and talked about their connections in the family. You know, those kind of guys. And they told Herschel that they wanted him to make him a movie starring Virginia Bell, this Cincinnati stripper who was famous for her 44-inch hooters. And so Herschel went down to Florida to make that movie, which was called Belle, Bear, and Beautiful. It was real popular in Cincinnati because Virginia Bell's boyfriend owned a bunch of theaters in Cincinnati. And after Herschel finished making that movie, he said, well, shoot, we got all these actors here, we got a bunch of film equipment, let's just shoot a quickie movie for ourselves. And the quickie that he shot in 5 days at the Suez Motel in Miami Beach turned out to be Blood Feast, the first gore movie in history, the movie that gave Herschel his reputation as the sleaziest filmmaker in the history of the world. But that's another story. For now, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that Billy Falbo has taken his last pratfall. The falcon has molted, the fat man bowls alone, but the drive-in will never die. wonder if she'd wear these just for me, I mean, one time.